Hello, my friends. Let's talk Yakuza 0. At first glance, the average person looks at this game and thinks that it is either a straightforward crime game or they experience utter confusion as they confront an endless sea of minigames that cover stories ranging from reuniting estranged families to collecting all the softcore porn left on the streets of Tokyo. When I first experienced Yakuza 0, I felt that there was something important being communicated by this game, some idea that it wanted to convey, but the pure ridiculousness held me back. At first, I wanted to talk about the aesthetics of Jianghu Philosophy, which I discussed in my analysis of the philosophy of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. You can find that video with a link in the description, but Jianghu simply didn't play any role beyond the amazing cutscenes and the Japanese mafia setting. The utter ridiculousness of Yakuza 0 wasn't just there for fun. It is there to present and critique a real, formalized philosophical concept known as the absurd. Albert Camus was a French anti-philosopher of the last century. He loathed the very idea of being a philosopher, yet was compelled to engage with the philosophical community time and time again. He created the concept of the absurd, which states that the human condition is one that has no choice but to seek meaning from reality. But, being an existentialist, he also argued that there were no inherent meanings or values in anything. Since our nature as humans is inherently in disagreement with reality, the human condition is therefore absurdity itself. And Camus criticized his fellow existentialists like Sartre, de Beauvoir, Kierkegaard, and Nietzsche for not fully committing to meaninglessness and trying to supplement values in its place. Between the two main characters, Kiryu and Majima, Yakuza 0 argues for two different paths meant to overcome the absurd. Our first main character is Kiryu, a strong, stoic, manly man who was raised by Kazama, a Yakuza leader who ran an orphanage as a front for a Yakuza tax shelter. Kiryu was never adopted, but found a strong, masculine role model in Kazama. And for what it's worth, Kazama did what he could to set Kiryu on the right path. Kazama taught Kiryu a very strict ethical ideal, and even went as far as refusing Kiryu when Kiryu wanted to join the Kazama family of the Yakuza. Kiryu, in his highly conflicted and rebellious youth, disobeyed Kazama and, in order to be as rad as Kazama himself, signed up with the Dojima family of the Yakuza. But Kiryu quickly learns that his values don't always match the Yakuza's. For example, Kiryu never kills people, whereas Yakuza, on occasion, are known to kill people. When Kiryu gets framed for murder, he is expected to take the fall. He gets to go free, but loses his membership in the family. Our other main character in Yakuza 0 is, of course, Majima. When we first join him, Majima is essentially in the Yakuza equivalent of a probationary period. He screwed up and was put in charge of a failing cabaret club, required to pay 100 million yen to earn his way back into the family. But Majima is a supremely competent person and turned the cabaret into the most successful cabaret in Osaka. Too successful, honestly, because the Yakuza wouldn't let go of such a lucrative source of income and upped the debt to 500 million yen. But Majima isn't some kind of brainwashed soldier. He too has pushed against the restrictive nature of the Yakuza as well, once in the past when he tried to save his brother Saejima, and now in Yakuza 0 with Makimura Makoto. Between these two characters, we experience some of the most serious circumstances imaginable in the main story. With rarely any levity, fear and loss at every turn, the idea of holding anything of value sacred is a far-off ideal. And yet, in the side stories, Majima and Kiryu go around reuniting families, buying toys and video games for children, singing karaoke, fighting crime, and, of course, collecting softcore pornography from the local dumpsters and trash cans. Falling into all of these wacky situations and accidentally becoming local superheroes is just ridiculous. However, The side stories emphasize, if not overemphasize, that there is plenty in life to love and value. The side stories are honestly the main appeal of the Yakuza games. Looking at our main characters, I see Kiryu as someone who idolized his father, and because of him, Kiryu saw the Yakuza as the most rad group of people in the entire world. But that same fatherly admiration sheltered Kiryu from the harsh, unethical realities of organized crime. Kiryu has grown accustomed to the Yakuza lifestyle, but Kiryu wants to reject the Yakuza, and yet chooses to remain a family man, in part because no other way of life is available to him, and also, despite having no reason to think it possible, Kiryu chooses to believe that he can still find value in the Yakuza ideal to which he aspires. Kiryu's answer to the principle of the absurd is to reject it, to believe that the absurd can be overcome, and to have faith in finding value. Majima found a different answer. Just like Kiryu, Majima finds himself in conflict with the Yakuza way of life. Majima is a supremely excellent family man. He can lead and control just as well as he can bow down and fall in line. But a simple mistake has Majima 1 inch away from a brand new pair of cement shoes. Majima finds himself needing to work his way back up the corporate ladder, but is given, in the course of the game, a glimpse outside of the Yakuza lifestyle. While never actually thinking he could leave the family, Majima wanted to find value in keeping Yakuza influence from reaching certain people, but Majima ultimately doesn't have that kind of influence in the criminal underworld. The whims of the Yakuza family and their conflicting goals that seemingly operate with no rhyme or reason, Majima must face the reality of the absurd, because the family suppresses and destroys any source of meaning in Majima's life. But whereas Kiryu chose to force his way past the absurd through faith, Majima fully embraced the absurd. He knows that he can't help but form values and create attachments. But Majima also accepts the meaninglessness of life, causing Majima to freely flow between the two. In one breath, Majima can harass women on the street, and in the next, he'll beat up his own subordinates for doing the same. He'll lecture strangers on fighting for their ideals while fighting for no ideals himself. A person who lives in the absurd can't help but look crazy. Yakuza 0, in spite of being deadly serious and very dramatic, has one of the most ridiculous and campy tones of any game you can play. This dissonance between the dire tone of the main quest and the goofy tones of the side stories makes the appeal of the Yakuza games hard to explain. Yakuza 0 uses the colloquial meaning of the word absurdity to teach the formal, philosophical idea of the absurd by juxtaposing the tones of the main and side stories against each other. And yet, by putting Kiryu and Majima on display, two very different characters with two very different conclusions, Yakuza 0 presents the absurd as though it is a struggle to overcome in life and not simply an end to thought or consideration. Thank you for watching, everyone. This was definitely a more difficult episode for me to write. Not only was Yakuza 0 my entry point into the Yakuza series of games, but I'm also not terribly familiar with the ins and outs of existentialists beyond Jean-Paul Sartre. So Albert Camus is a bit like a mountain to me. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe, and please share the video with your friends. I don't pay anyone to promote the channel, so the only way we can grow is with your help. Thanks again, and as always, stay true.